So I know you've been here a while, and I'm going to be brief about secrets of fundraising. So if you're ready, here's the secret. Okay? Between Desmond's free money and some ice buckets, you should be fine. Any questions? But if you've decided that you don't want to put all your eggs in one bucket, boom, there are some other approaches you can take. And so I want to kind of share those with you tonight to kind of get you started thinking about how to go about this business of raising additional funds for your organization. And I can summarize it in these 5 steps. You need a cause. Then you need a vehicle, some way for people to give you money. You need to promote whatever that way is going to be. Then you need to double dip, and I'll explain that when we get to it. And finally, you need to thank those who have come to your events or who have in other ways contributed to your organization. So let's start with cause. I suspect you all think you have a cause, and you do, because each of your 200 organizations, I looked through many of them today and over the weekend, you have wonderful mission statements. You care about each other, you care about your society, but you won't be very successful going out and saying, we want to raise money for our organization. Because your organization, other than its own members, and if you want to raise money from each other, that's certainly fine. But if you want to raise money from other people, they will generally want to know what's it for or who's going to benefit. And you have those answers buried in your mission statements. But before you go out and do a fundraising campaign, you want to try to be explicit in narrowing down who's going to benefit. Let's next talk about the vehicles. This is where you spend a lot of time trying to figure out how are we going to go about raising the money that we want to raise. Obviously, you can sell things. This wristband that I have here was sold by students, Julia Niswender, who at the time sadly was in my class. And she was murdered in one of the apartments across here on River Drive. They've still not solved the mystery. But she had a twin. She was a twin. And through sales of these and through some other requests, they've raised enough money to give scholarships to a twin. You can sell almost anything if you can make it attractive, make it colorful, even as strange and unlikely as it might be. There are all kinds of things you can do for each other. You can lock each other up and then try to get people to come in and free you. If your group is not particularly popular, you'd want to make sure that the jail you're in has a little bed or something that you can take care of, should you be there overnight. Oh yeah, there are all kinds of things you can have people run for. This one, the vampire run, wouldn't be my favorite, but you know, there are color runs and there are other runs where you don't get paint or anything else splashed on you. Lots of people find ways to raise money by embarrassing themselves and doing strange things to their bodies. The color run is one. The shaving of hair is usually done a lot for promoting cancer research, and so on. Many organizations do the dine and donate approach. It's easy. Any number of restaurants in the area, including the Tower Inn, and others will be willing to work with you, and you come in, you talk to them, and they will sponsor an evening. You do a lot of promotion to get your club members, your fraternity sorority members, and other students from campus to go in and meet and have a meal there, and every, like 10% of the meal proceeds goes to your organization. The thing I would caution you is if you approach them is to bring something that proves who you are. Some identification that clarifies that you are part of a bona fide student organization here at Eastern. And there are any number of other kinds of, this was the poster on the left advertises an event where people came and the food was prepared by Eastern students. So you can prepare the food, so there's essentially no cost because whatever cost is involved, you're assuming it. And then people pay to come in and you keep the proceeds from that. This was a wonderful fundraising event. It's been 7 years, I think, so this year will probably be the 8th year. Tau Kappa Epsilon and Alpha Kappa Lambda, the men walk around for a day in women's shoes. And as they go from office to office and place to place, sometimes they get pledges ahead of time, but or they walk around to our offices and we give them money because they really look like they're painful experiences for these men. But it's a very important lesson to be communicating. So it's got a lot going on for it on a lot, excuse me, on a lot of different levels. There was a huge fundraiser here last February put on by the gaming industry. They were raising money not for any of your organizations, but to provide kiosks and to provide video games to send overseas to soldiers. So they had a great cause. They obviously had a lot of interest in the region. So if your organization can figure out how to tap into interest even beyond the campus with something that people really want to do, and in doing it, you raise a lot of money, that would be something to try to look for. Banquets are an effective way to raise money depending upon your group and your organization. The Center for Equality had a very successful banquet. The key to most successful banquets is a guest speaker that people will want to come and hear. So if you can get a big name speaker or even a speaker whose name appeals to your organization. Graduates of Eastern make great speakers. They're very often willing to come back. Graduates of Eastern who were part of your club or your fraternity sorority, well, they make ideal speakers. We just had a speaker today over in Cork who's the producer of American Family, and she's a 1977 graduate of Eastern. And people love to come back. As I said, there is no shortage of ideas. These are two websites out of any number if you just Google fundraising ideas, but these two are particularly rich in their collection of fundraising ideas. The one there on the left is Sign Up Genius. Now, both of these will try to sell you things, but there's a ton of free stuff to look through, ideas that you could generate, bring back to meetings, and go through. And the same is true of fundraising-ideas.org. A very rich site. Just lists and lists of possible fundraising ideas. So that's the vehicles. So you have a cause, you figure out a vehicle. The next thing to do is to promote whatever it is that you're going to do. When I walked in today, I saw just a wonderful collection of posters that have been done as you walk into the Student Center building, promoting any number of events. And certainly posters is a very common way these days of promoting events. Flyers as well, and the more creative you can make your flyer so that it stands out, because there's lots of paper floating around. So very creative use of your imaginations and your creativity in developing and designing flyers so they stand out. Getting free coverage in the papers, it's free. And local papers are dying for stories. So if you go to a local newspaper with a great press release and tell them your story, chances are you'll get coverage. And nothing beats news coverage because it carries that aura of objectivity that, oh, this isn't just your advertisement you've paid for. This is a real story. We couldn't talk about promoting events unless we talked about social media. Now, I know that Facebook's popularity among college students, is declining. But it's still the big dog. The cool social media, which you know better than I do, are these. And so what you'll want to do is to try to promote your events. These are all tools that you have to decide which of them would be best suited to promoting your activities and events. But clearly, for college students, social media, is the key. Double dipping. What do I mean, double dipping? Whenever you bring people together for an event, and let's say they've paid $5 to come in, they're there. You need to find a way to try to get a little more money. Well, one way is to have silent auctions. That is a very, very popular double dip approach. You have a banquet, people show up, they might not even know there's going to be a silent auction, and all of a sudden there's all this cool stuff on a table. And they go around and they make bids, and you make money on their bids. It's a great double dip strategy. Other double dip strategies, you can sell stuff. Just have stuff there, and people are there. Especially if it's a special event where there's some entertainment, people get excited, and they're more likely to want to remember and get a souvenir and leave. So don't overlook the opportunity to double dip. You've got to remember to thank the people who participated, because they are your best future participants if they are thanked. Find a way, a little card, something where they write down their name, address, email address, so that you know who came, because that way you can thank them. Now, I think this day and age, thanking people by email is perfectly appropriate. Now, if you have a $100 dinner and you think it's better to thank people with a little handwritten note, I would agree with you. But my guess is for most of your events, simple email would be fine. And I would always include a line that suggests, we hope to see you again. Thank you for your support. Look forward to having you with us, at a future date. So that's it. It doesn't spell anything, but I think if you identify a cause, select an effective vehicle, do an active job of promoting it, including appropriate social media, double dip, give people an opportunity to give again, and then don't forget to thank them once you're finished. I think you can put together some pretty stunning and pretty successful fundraising activities. I'll close with this quote. I've tried to raise money by asking for it and by not asking for it. I always got more by asking for it. And he's the founder of Habitat for Humanity. So good luck on your fundraising, and thanks very much for having me.